Re-Up Alex.
It's BMO.
This is the Re-Up Podcast.
What is you and I's responsibility to black creativity?
To black creativity.
Yeah. Do you think Langston Hughes would have let this happen? You think John Singleton would have let this happen?
No, I think that what we're doing right now is, I mean, I know you do way more than me.
We are peers, brother.
Yeah.
We are peers.
You put in more effort and time
into the black part? Into just representation?
I feel like it's more so being like a spearhead and like trying to like actually make moves that change and push the envelope and push and move that dial. And I'm trying to get there. And it's these conversations. I mean, hey, we were on 804 podcast, last week, and social media came up and it's like,
weren't you in a riot?
I was in 100 days of riots, actually.
Exactly. I feel like you downplay that. You know what? I think, did we talk about this already?
No,
did we talk about this on stream already? There's only been one comment under our social media that has actually truly pissed me off.
Oh yeah, we did talk. We talked about
on.
Yeah,
okay.
we did talk about that on camera. Yeah.
And I'm bringing that back up to say that now we both doing the work, but like, are we supposed to be creating new language? More so that are we supposed to be like, are we supposed to create the next bet?
Okay, so that's funny. It's like, I don't think people seek like making new things when it comes to like lingo or even style. They're not like sitting in a room like, okay, so next. Maybe if you're like a fashion designer, but like the normal average person is, I feel like it's
You don't think so?
I really don't think
we're not talking about average people. We're talking about creators. I saw Cameron say, you know how niggas be like, oh, niggas is shooting, or niggas is like, oh, you cooking. Cameron says that in his song, in one of his songs, he said in the early 2000s, he said computers is computing, and he should get credit for creating that vocal pattern. That's what I mean. Should we? So to answer your question, did Cameron, when he was writing the verse, did he say, "Oh, I'm creating a new vocal pattern with this shit," or was he like?
That's what I'm saying. I think the art and the creative part of it is that it kind of just happened, and you were like, "Oh, this is cool. You know, this might stick," and you do it, and it's scary to be out there with a new thing, right? To do a new thing in front of people when eyes are on you and you're a creator or creative or whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, for me, that's scary for sure. You mind getting Eyezic? Yeah.
You know what's interesting though, as Eyezic is coming up, so I want to go back to the YouTube culture and trends report because what's interesting here is the Gen Alpha language. That's just another iteration of blackness. What's interesting to me, though, in the report, though, it says that this digital circus got 300 million views within like the first 2 or 3 days it was out. But the more important part was there were 25 billion views on content that was made about the first episode.
Wow.
25 billion views of people making things about that thing.
Yeah.
That was the story in the culture and trends thing. It wasn't like, oh, the digital circus, cool, whatever. It's more so like this thing generated enough content that it activated fans that would then react or use this as a source of originality to then like flip it or remix it or respond to it. And I feel like that goes back into our thesis of the show that we've been talking about, especially season 2, about what's more important, innovation or originality. Yeah. And in this particular case, YouTube is pushing the fact. They're saying we want creators to be more like the 25 billion than the original. Yeah. Because like,
of course,
essentially y'all niggas ain't talented. Like ain't nobody really talented and original for real. But what we all can do is take the one thing we can all respond to, we can all act scared, we can all like it's our first time, we can critique the animation, we can do everything but the actual thing.
It's fun. Eyezic is, I would say, in the modern terms of electronic DJ and producer, he is like that. You know, just like right now, he's playing the shows, he's playing the festivals, he's making the music, he's doing the content to follow it. He is on a really cool management company called Optimistic Endeavors. They have some really, really big artists. including himself. Come on in, man. Come on in. And yeah,
come on in, Isaac. Come on in, brother.
Come on in.
Just jump on in.
How you doing,
What's up?
Man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. BMO.
Oh, Christian.
Nice to meet you, Christian.
Pleasure. What's up, man? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Come sit down. You're in the middle.
Yeah, that's kind of how the show goes.
Jump in. We already recording, man. We actually talking about you behind your back. Ain't that crazy?
Damn,
it's wild. Right behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Alice, reveal what we was talking about. Alice was talking mad shit too. It was crazy. Talking about your mama. It was wild.
Yeah, so I was just saying, like, in the sense of, like, I would say, traditional is kind of a bad name for it, but now when it comes to an electronic DJ or producer, I feel like you really embody what's happening. You're playing the festivals, you're playing shows as much as you can, you're writing music, you're DJing, and you're making social media that also encompasses and puts that all together. And, there's a lot of different kinds of DJs, but I think this is the first one who we've had who like stays within that lane, like Black Rave Culture, Amal, he's doing different shit, like he's doing different shit. Like Ryan Celsius doing different shit. Togeki, pretty similar vein.
Okay.
He was on for just a little bit with Shrezda.
That's right.
Those two lads who are also
good people.
Yeah, colleagues of Eyezic, Christian. We're gonna call you Eyezic.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
This, yeah, happy to have you on, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, this was exciting. I'm glad that you guys were very flexible with the scheduling too. So I do appreciate that a lot.
Hey, you're helping us out, man. I'm happy to have you on. It's like one of my favorite parts of the podcast is choosing the guests. Mm-hmm. And like we were on other podcasts, we were kind of talking about it's like every guest kind of leads down this like little path of like what do we do next, but everything kind of like coincides its own way. When it comes down to it. I want to start off, what part of the DMV are you from, or are you from the DMV, or do you just live?
Yeah, no, I was born and raised in the DMV. So I was born in Alexandria.
Oh, me too.
And then I think by the time I was like 8 or 9, I moved to Burke.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, I moved with my mom over there. And then on weekends, I would be with my dad in Falls Church for the time. And then he now lives in Annandale now. So yeah, pretty much have always grown up in the DMV or in Northern Virginia. And then as of recently, I just moved into DC like a few months ago. So
nice. Yeah. I met Eyezic just going to shows, Flash Nightclub specifically. It actually took me so long to learn that he actually like DJ'd and produced. He's kind of just like one of the people who I'd like be dapping up and, chatting with here and there, like shows. And I feel like it was actually at the Carmack show. Cause I remember I went to the Carmack show. People were always like, oh, well, you could like get on the guest list or something. I'm like, bro, I get so many free tickets from my job that like I'm happy to pay. Mm-hmm. But the thing about Flash and these shows is like, if you get down to that like few hours before the show, it might sell out. And it kind of got to that point. I got into DC. I remember I like parked my car really far away and I had to get in before doors to buy a ticket at the door. And I ripped my favorite thing to do in DC. I ripped one of them scooters so fast downhill.
Oh.
I remember I pulled up, I hit the brakes, it was like, skirt. I remember you in the front, there's a line. I was like, hey, what's up, guys? Went in, gave him a cash, was like, bang, I made it. But
damn.
Yeah, that was, I remember talking to you that night and I had actually followed you on Instagram and like finally followed you. And yeah, saw what you were getting up to. But I think my first question is like when I first kind of, dug into your music, and correct me if I'm wrong because I didn't go that deep into it, but it seemed like you were doing a little more of like dancey, more of like the house side of things, from what I saw, like going down your story and, your discography a little bit. And now seems like you're going into a little more like still dancey, but like the bass is being introduced, the UKG, which we're definitely going to get into. I don't know if you read that treatment, but there's a lot of information on garage, which can also be called garage, actually. Togeki changed my mind about that. I really thought that the proper pronunciation would be garage, but it's UK garage and it's just garage if it's not UK garage. And we'll get into that later of why.
I think also, and don't like correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm almost positive that someone had told me that garage had actually like started in America. Like it like, I don't know if it was Chicago or something like that.
So it was New York.
New York. Okay.
Yep. New York.
And then I think it was just, I don't know too much. I didn't go too far deep into it, but then it got really popularized in the UK, or they really took it a step further, which I think is phenomenal. So to start off with that question, I actually started making like, I guess like future beats, if that makes, if that was like what I would call it.
We talking like selection future beats, or we talking like?
It was like, I was really into like Galimatias.
Okay.
And like Galimatias and the whole film noir crew, like that's like what really like started everything. Really made stuff that was really inspired by, again, like Galimatias and Medicine. And Medicine was like what really got me into making music. And then from there, I really wanted to make like San Holo style, like future bass and all of that stuff. Finally got to where I wanted to make that. Then fast forward, realized that it really kind of got boring to me. So then I realized like, oh, to really kind of like be unique, you got to manipulate a bunch of stuff, which then went into future trap and like melodic dubstep. Now I fully have evolved into just like house music and like the UK influence. And also like, I've been making a lot of more aggressive bass music as of lately, but it still doesn't, I would still categorize it like new KG and like future.
New KG?
That's what a lot of people have been like calling it.
Oh my God. What's the one that the troll of it is what, the US UKG?
Yeah. I would say, I would call it like American garage is what I would like classify it.
American garage.
Yeah, I would definitely not claim.
That just
like,
sounds like middle class American to me. A barbecue, some beers, and a good old garage. Well, before we get deeper into the garage, I did cite my sources on this, but so garage, we'll start with calling it garage, started in this place called Paradise Garage in New York. This was 1977. And like a lot of other genres, like house music, it was very ingrained in the gay community and the black community. Those are usually the people who are doing these crazy parties around this time. And from there was a DJ named Larry Levin. I might have butchered that. But this whole venue is actually credited as a place that a lot of the places in like London copied and were built off of their style and how they're throwing these shows. And this is like 1977. So that's pretty crazy. You know, we're no internet, you know, you're still, and somehow, some way, these, you know, this is how it came along. There's some really, really cool people who came through to that club, Paradise Garage. Some of them were Madonna, which is crazy, Diana Ross. And the reason we mention these names is because the vocals were so important to it. Like, it was to the point where it's like, if you were throwing, like, imagine that we were so into our electronic music as a culture, like, and a music listening scene, that it wasn't sectioned into a genre, and like Willow wanted to come and sing over some crazy, you know, electronic song. Like, that's the kind of respect at this time that the music was getting, that Diana Ross or Madonna would come in and say, hey, I'm gonna hop up here and, you know, be a part of this show. So that's a little bit of how it happened on the US side. Definitely comes from a lot of different music, different types of electronic music and different samples. The 4 on the floor house kind of patterns, and then your 2-step, kind of a mix between those two things. But I love UKG because I think that it really bridges the gap between what the house music and techno kids like and the people who like the heavier music. It's like this happy medium where, like, if you play that in a room of those two weird like centers and circles of people, they'll all probably be bobbing their head a little bit, which is hard to find. The bass music kids, as we've gone in the first season, might be wearing all black and not dancing. So yeah. That's kind of
You know I'm confused over here, right?
You're probably so confused.
You know I'm like, what the
you
fuck are
clearly
y'all
did
talking
not
about?
dig into the treatment deep enough.
I mean, more so. You know how I feel about the creation of new genres. And Eyezic, I want to bring you into this because I come from a very traditional background. So like, I kind of heard in all the words that you just said just now, the only things I kind of recognized was 4 patterned bass and a 2-step. Give me some more. Like I need some more like sonic definitions around what the genre of this garish thing is.
Oh wow, okay. So
hit me with the nerd shit. I'm ready.
It's funny you mention that because if you were to put me in a room with a bunch of other people who knew exactly what they're talking about, I would be the one that doesn't know anything. Like growing up, I've kind of known, like when I've listened to UK garage or like listened to house music, it's all the time. Like I've tried to listening to music. I've listened to enough of it to where I go like, I kind of know what sounds good and what like the rhythm should be. And so I just kind of listen to a rhythm, or I would listen to a bunch of samples and be like, that seems like it makes sense. And then I would recreate that. And that's kind of just how my flow has been. So if I were to go into like what UK garage is, or like how it should, the syncopation or the flow is, it's like you said, it's like 4 patterns. So I would think either like very much 4 on the floor, like house music, and it's mainly like very percussive based. So like percussive based. So it would be like, it's the swing of like, it's basically swing, I guess. How, I don't know, you could, if you can explain this to me.
I mean, there's those percussive patterns like that come from junglist, kind of like those junglist breaks that we all know and love when it comes to electronic music. That's kind of being implemented into the 4 on the floor house pattern. So kind of switches up because those boots and cats get a little redundant, but they're switching up that hi-hat pattern with some of the more junglist stuff, and is kind of creating like the garage. So. It's also speed garage. It's a thing too.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that.
I wish I could answer that. I did.
But what I'm also hearing is that like this is like sample based, and so when you're saying you're recreating samples, what do you walk me through that?
So a lot of the times is when I was making music, just a lot of the times, a lot of people I would run into other producers and they would say, "Oh yeah, like if you're just putting in loops together, you're not technically like." It doesn't feel like it's your own sound, but I call bullshit. I just think it's not what you make, it's how you make it and how you go about it. So before I used to really just like recreate these samples. So I would find a loop of like a garage loop or a house loop or something like that. And I would grab samples that I would use on a regular basis and then just recreate that rhythm, but with different samples, and then kind of just make it my own. And
so
then
use it as like a pattern that you're
like a blueprint.
A blueprint. There we go. Yeah, like a blueprint.
And so a lot of the times when I started, especially in like the trap space and doing all of that stuff, a lot of my projects would be, I think, like 100 to 120 channels, and just like pulling out like a fully fledged track. But now with the power of just like sampling and just using loops and XYZ, I don't know, in the past year and a half, I haven't exceeded a record that's over 30 channels. And I find that it's just like less is a lot more. And I've found my way to just like have more fun with trying to get the idea out than trying to make something as, forward thinking or like as original as possible.
I like that.
We've been in season 2. We've been having this battle with originality.
Oh yeah.
We've been trying to figure out what the sweet spot is. Before you walked in, we were just talking about this quick case study that's happening on YouTube right now. There's this. I don't know if you're keeping up with the brain rot in the Gen Alpha language that's happening right now, but I'll keep it quick. There's a digital circus that's on YouTube. There's 2 episodes. The first episode got 300 million views within like 3 or 4 days. Right. But the breakout story is from that one episode, other people created content like across the globe that generated 25 billion views. So like the case study is what's more valuable, the original thing or the people who created something from the original thing. And so that's kind of the conversation we've been having about originality throughout actually our 2 seasons. We've had artists who've come on here who have dedicated blood, sweat, and tears to come up with something completely new. And then we've had other artists come on here and say, there's nothing new else that I could make that'd be better that you could make. So I'm just going to use that shit.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing what you said a second ago is like, I did have 120 channels, which I was trying to recreate things, but you still came back to the moment. It's like maybe innovation is more powerful.
Yeah. And I think I've just looked at some of my other friends' like work and, the more creative friends that you have that are kind of doing the same thing, you realize that you don't need to go as crazy, or if you do go a little crazy, it's not so much how much you're putting on, it's like what you're doing with that that sample that you have in front of you. So a lot of the stuff now has been like a lot of manipulation or time, it's like, or what's it called? Automation, not manipulation. Automation has been like my biggest thing. I've really enjoyed it. And then I've also just like found more joy in like finding a sample that someone else has made, whether that all royalty free speaking, and kind of using that and like throwing it into the channel that I have, but then I just kind of manipulate it and recreate something new with what was given to me from the get-go.
See, what you seem like you're illuminating to me, because I'm on the side of originality, but what you're illuminating to me is that it still takes skill to manipulate those sounds.
Oh, 1,000%.
It's not just like I took something, this song, I glued it together, got something new.
Yeah.
You're saying there is a skill that you had to develop.
Yeah.
How did you develop said skill?
It's kind of like the whole 10,000 hours kind of thing. You just had to make like a bunch of shitty music or like shitty ideas. And like to where you started realizing that you have made like better ideas. Like out of the entire panels, like the entire list of ideas that I've written, I think there's probably like the past 4 years of music that I've put out was shit that I actually really liked.
Yeah.
So behind 4 years of music or 5 years or even further, there was probably 10 or 20 shitty ideas that came from it.
See, Eyezic, you sound like a musician, man. Because what I say often about musicians, like the thing that we do often is practice. We probably perform 7 times in a lifetime, but like what you're doing most of the time is practice. And what practice is I'm getting all the shit out the way for it.
Yeah. I think,
No, good.
I think one thing I've learned, and I know that there's a lot of other musicians that, I'm good friends with, and a lot of them have always taught me or not taught me, but they've said like, oh, I'm the type of person that mixes my music as I go, or I need to make this sound completely original or make it sound to exactly what I want before I can continue. And the way I've learned and how my brain operates is that I'd rather get the creative flow out as quick as I can.
That's interesting.
And then I can come back, and if it doesn't sound good, then I can clean it up to make it sound to what I want it to sound.
Yeah.
So
I think people have like a lot of different workflows when it comes to anything. And I kind of agree with what you're saying, like get the creative side out, like, throw the paint onto the canvas and then refine it,
Yeah.
That's how I like to do things as BMO probably.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Okay, so I watched another video.
Yeah.
I'm seeing now that rappers don't rap how I thought they rapped.
Explain.
I thought rappers still went into the booth. Hey, man, my man, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought rappers still went into the booth with a yellow pad and was like, I wrote a verse and now I'm finna rap this verse. What I learned recently is now it's the punch-in method. So they're not even They're not even like physically writing anymore. So essentially, they're walking into a studio, walking into a space, getting the idea out. So they'll mumble over some shit, and then piece by piece, they'll punch in lyrics. Don't write them. Don't even have to be sensical. They're just lining these lyrics up.
Yeah.
And what I find though, and I definitely get on this because I heard that you were like really performing out this motherfucker. That's what Alex said. Like I find that those individuals who are on that punch-in list can't perform for shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, shout out to the engineers, like even with beats. I was told that a lot of hip hop producers will send like a beat, but it is essentially kind of still a loop.
Really?
Yeah, it's still a loop. And then a lot of the engineers have to like piece these things together to actually make it a palatable beat that they can rap over, either extending it or, you know, yeah. So like, I didn't know that either. I thought like you send a beat, it's like, bro.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, like this is good to go.
Is what I just explained, is that the same thing that you're doing?
Kind of, but also like, if kind of like how he's mentioning with engineers, the thing I've been doing a lot now with record labels has been, I don't send them fully finished, like full-fledged ideas. I send them works in progress.
Right.
There's generally like a very strong idea there. They're very strong ideas, but I don't send them the full version. And then once they go like, oh, I really like this. Can we finish this?
Good.
Then I really go in and tweak it. In terms of, like records, you know, I could send like, you could send a drop idea, and a couple of friends have sent me that for collaborations.
Yeah.
They'll send me a drop. But then from there, like I say, okay, send me the stems. And then it's like, you have the layers of the cake, but now like each break or each measure is now like a layer, like the bottom layer, then you're like slowly adding it and leading it up to that drop section, which is what you had originally.
That's cool.
That is cool. Okay. Let's go back to my original question. Do you think that affects your performance? What a question. But does it affect your performance?
Like in the terms of like me, like just playing live?
Yeah.
No, just like I still play songs that I haven't even finished.
Okay.
Like, yeah. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
I sometimes like read the room and be like, oh, do people really fuck with this?
Yeah.
It's something new that I'm working on, or like, I don't think so. And if it does, then I don't know, like I just scratch the idea and I just don't put it out. So
fair.
yeah.
Huh. Cool. So actually, I wanted to ask, because I know a lot of people have questions, and I've seen Facebook posts recently about this and just like contact of these magical individuals who are the deciders in the music industry, which I'm not magical, but I do know some of these people and I do contact them as well. It's part of my job as an artist manager.
Yeah.
When you're reaching out to labels, is there any best practices or things that have worked for you? Or like, how did you figure that out in like a way that you can kind of like do that and be successful?
So I really have to thank my mentor in the beginning. There's a label called Future Collective, and this guy named Michael, he did these like mentorship programs, and it was like $50 a month during the pandemic. I wasn't doing shit, and I really wanted to learn how to kind of like take that step into reaching out to labels and doing stuff. And so he basically, like, if you know Michael, like he runs SoundCloud, like he runs it, like any repost chain that you could think of, like
the repost chains.
Like the repost chains from like all the people with like multiple, like hundreds of thousands of followers. He has their account, like he has that information to go in, and then can just hit the repost button, and then that's it. You know, it's like it's crazy how much like people like know about this, like have gone into these like repost chains. Yeah. But he's doing it for like.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just like, I missed them.
I mean, I got the playlist plugs, but I don't really share them.
But
no, I miss gatekeepers. That's what that was more like
them.
Fuck yeah. What people don't know shit. Let me tell you something.
Yeah, I want to know
people
more
are
about
stupid.
this.
Individual persons can't be smart, but people are stupid, and they don't know what the fuck they want. I'd rather have one person, like my man's over at SoundCloud, who has the power to be like, no, I believe in this sound. I think this sound actually fits. And who has actually a curatorial attitude, push a button, rather it be democratized and we get dumbass shit all the time.
All the time. You still get dumbass shit.
Yeah, and like,
but I'd rather be on one person who I can yell at rather than call all people dumb like I just did.
Fair.
And so like repost trading was like a really big thing. It's like, I think it's still a thing. I don't really know. Yeah. So that's essentially what it was, is he would always, you know, I'd put out a record, and then I would also put, you know, like you have to put money in behind things. So I put some money into like the repost trading, and that's what he did. But he also taught me how to send emails, when to send emails.
When to send emails is very important.
And it started like going into like collectives. So I started releasing with collectives such as, you know, Good Society, Future Collective, smaller labels. And then with that was able to guide me to reach out to some bigger labels. And then from there, I think, I don't know, it could be the right or wrong answer, but from there, like when you see an artist like slowly release on like bigger and better labels, you feel a little bit more confident to reach out to a more well-known label, and then they can look back and say, seems like the kid's doing something, so let's take a chance. And that's kind of how it all started. And also Twitch. When the pandemic happened, all these big name artists were all back at the same, like at square one with all the other producers that were trying to make it.
Yeah.
And I was in every single like artist stream that I could think of and just constantly sharing demos. And so sometimes I was able to reach out to like labels, such as I was in a Twitch stream, they did a demo reel, and the A&R at Proximity was in there.
Nice.
And Proximity ended up emailing me and was like, hey, like we want to sign this record. Can we get it now? And so that was like, and then, so like it continues. Sorry.
That was like a little like, watching. No, you're
that was like an elongated answer, but yeah.
We need those though. I feel like people are intimidated by record labels or even correspondence in general. And reach out, bro.
I know people who think that record labels are like evil. And I'm like, you don't understand what a record label is then. Because the answer to that can be yes and no. Because like record labels can be a multitude of different things. And we've actually gone over this before. Like your record label could only do releases. Your record label could only sell merch and press vinyl. Your record label could actually be an artist management company and they distribute music or do publishing and they call it a record label. Like there's so many different avenues. It's just a very blanket term.
Right.
And I understand like hating the majors, and I work with a ton of different artists, and like a lot of the successful ones they have nothing to do with majors and they do just fine because they're big independent labels that are still like homegrown grassroots. They're scrappy, they do well, they've got the underground behind them. It's great. But at the end of the day, I think a big thing that is different for electronic music, and correct me if I'm wrong, I see a lot of electronic music artists like they don't have traditional deals with record labels when they release. Like usually a deal with a record label is like, hey, we're going to advance you X amount of money. You're going to release this song. We're going to own the rights to it until you recoup. And then you're going to get a percentage after that is not, maybe not the full percentage. But that's like a general, like a very, very like base level deal, right? Because they invested that money because they're also going to pump money into it to get their recoup, and then they kind of earn the fact that they own a percentage of your song for maybe 10 years, depends on really like how long they own the masters for.
Exactly.
So it's a loan, but yeah, that's how I've seen a lot of record labels work. If I owned a record label, I would probably do the same thing, and I would be really happy that I'm paying my friends good money, hopefully.
Yeah.
And putting like what and your resources behind it. You're like, you got the right marketing. You have all the designers to turn everything around really fast. You've got a team of people who you can meet with and actually like brainstorm ideas. Like that's the ideal situation. But a lot of the smaller releases is just like, okay, we're going to release your song. We're going to put in this compilation. We're going to put advertising money behind it. I mean, I recently saw a deal where the only fees that need to be recouped were like $50.
Yeah.
I was like, bet. Because that was my one question with the deal. I was like, but this just says fees. Like, you need to tell me what these fees are. It could be we're going to buy a Tesla and you're going to have to recoup it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
gotta recoup a Tesla.
I got to recoup a fucking Cybertruck.
Be kind of funny, but pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it would be fucked up.
Yeah. Very much fucked up.
That would be fucked. That would fall in line with the evil record label.
Yeah.
You know what I'll talk about?
Yeah.
Let's talk about granddaddies.
Granddaddies.
Yeah, let's talk about grandfathers. I know, Eyezic, you named yourself after your grandfather, correct?
Yeah.
See, I did read the treatment.
Yeah.
Hell
yeah.
I read it, man. Tell me about that. Tell me. So, okay, here's the thing about my grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1933.
Wow.
And he revealed to me, I think when I was like 16, 17, that he doesn't like music.
Oh, I've never heard anyone say that before.
Yeah, it's a rare thing. But when I think about it, it's like when he was 16 in 1940, 49, like that was still like 3 or 4 years before Nat King Cole. So like what music was there that's like popping for him to listen to? By the time Earth, Wind & Fire came out, like he was an old man.
Yeah.
So he didn't fuck with music. What was your grandfather's relationship with music? Was it better than mine? My grandfather's?
So like my grandpa, from as much as I can remember, well, up until I was 15, that's fine. Yeah. But like, he played the violin. So, he played the violin. My uncle, his youngest son, was a drummer. And so when my mom brought my grandpa to America, I never met my grandmother. To kind of like, this gives a little bit more context, is that, so my grandpa wrote a song that he wrote then like for my grandma, so that every single time he felt like, it felt like a presence when she was there, or if like a moment where he missed her, he wrote, like he would play that song on the violin.
Yeah.
So like I would hear it in the house from time to time, but I knew like when he was doing that, like he was like trying to like, it was kind of just like making the connection again. And so one thing that my grandpa always wanted my mom to do was like, hey, like you can have him do all of these things, but let him get into the arts and see how he feels about it. That's cool. I did piano, I played the trombone, I did all of that, fucking hated it, just cause like, I felt like it was kind of the same thing with practice, but like I really loved playing video games as a kid. So I kind of just ignored all of it. But when my grandpa passed away, I kind of learned my love for dance music later on when I was 24. And the only way I could connect with my grandpa was sharing the music that I always enjoyed. And so the whole concept of For Your Eyes Only is because like, I wish I could go back and like show him like how I connect with like music, how the same way he did with my grandma. So
that'd been beautiful, man.
Damn. And so and that's where your name comes from, right? He's named Eyezic.
Yeah, it's my middle name too. So I'm named after like, so Christian Leopoldo, which is my dad's, my grandpa on my dad's side, who I also haven't met, and then Eyezic, who I was like very, very close with. And then after guys,
I'm named after my grandfather. Middle name is William. That's William Earl. That's the man who don't like music. Was interesting. So my grandfather is still alive, and every so once in a while, I get this cold chill that runs up to my spine. It's like you need to go down to North Carolina and record a podcast with your grandfather. He's 91. Come on, nigga, you really like pushing it. Were you able to record the song from your grandfather? Is there any remnants of the song?
Maybe there's like some home videos like that are just like sitting in a case that my mom has in like the attic. But to be honest, I have no idea. Like I would have to go through all of them. And I'm pretty sure that we don't have a VHS player in the house anymore.
No, you don't.
So
I can guarantee it for you.
Or if we do, it's probably old, it's fucked. Yeah.
No, totally.
So,
but that would be like, you know, not to put a challenge on your plate, but you know, to challenge you, that'd be something interesting. I also a producer. I had a friend of mine who took their life a few years ago. It sucks, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Suicide is a motherfucker. But also like, you know, damn. But what brought me peace though was I've always felt like my role on the planet was to be able to capture stories. And I was able to, she was one of my first clients, and I was able to capture her live performances. And one of them, she's singing this song called Mona Lisa, which is like about inner beauty and like loving yourself and all this stuff. So I was able to send that video, fully produced, 16-track, recorded, like beautiful 4K to the family. And that's what they used at the funeral. Like it was that video. And it's like, that's the moment where I felt the most complete. And when I think about going to record my grandfather, putting him on that digital stage feels like, I don't know, it feels like a generational responsibility.
Yeah, 1000%.
Especially if we're going to sample like non-royalty and Celine Dion, like we can get my grandfather on the track, right?
Yeah.
All right, for sure. What are your thoughts?
It was, to add on to it, I am a firm believer of just like, not to get too in depth, it's just that I feel like my form of beliefs have just been very much like when someone in your family or very close and near and dear that become family, I feel like they are, you know, they're always watching over you. And that's how I always feel like whenever I've, you know, like I've gotten into a car accident and like my car was completely clean. Like there was not a dent on it. And I walked out completely okay. And I just was like, whoa, like grandpa, like, holy shit.
Right.
Yeah. But also to like kind of make that connection with my grandpa is that I think a few years ago, my mom like gave me her old jewelry box and she gave me the bracelet that my grandma made for him. So it was like a sterling silver one. It has like, it has his name, and then inside was my grandma's name like engraved. So like I wear that whenever I perform. So that's kind of like my whole like concept of sharing that stage with him and doing all of that stuff.
Well,
so
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
And speaking of stages, you know, you've been playing a lot of shows within the past year, a lot of festivals. Do you have any interesting moments that have happened or favorite, you know, places that you've been? I know that definitely Flash headline selling out rooftop would be one, but
it all just like, I don't know. I think to kind of be like a little bit more broad on it is like just, I think what I've done and like making a connection with people through music is like all I could really do. The shows and the team and everything is just like an add-on. It's just like the additional icing on the cake. But man, like there's just every show just gets like, it feels like a little bit more like sincere. I just know that the first time when I played in LA, that was like, you know, every guy from the DMV or something. I've met a lot of locals and like the artists here that always just love going to LA, like the West Coast.
Yeah.
And the moment you have that is like, it's insane. It's insane. So that was super special. Playing in Boston, that was fucking sick.
Interesting. That's a really difficult city to pull a crowd in. It's one of the more difficult ones.
It was with San Holo, direct support, and it was like 2,000 people, and it was a very special moment because my girlfriend got into San Holo when she saw him at like Firefly. That's like the first artist that got her into it. So, and that was my first time ever really meeting him. So it was a very surreal moment going to Boston, playing a show with an artist that she's always loved, and then seeing an artist that like has been my influence from day one, on top of like Medicine and Galimatias. Just being in the same room with like three people, like just people with like, that like really like inspired me so much. Chicago was beautiful. Beyond Wonderland, Chicago.
It's a big festival.
It was pouring rain. I was going on at 3 and I don't know, but like 400 to 500 people just dancing in the rain nonstop, just like felt so amazing. And then I think DC really like put it all together. I think just going from that to the headline was just, I was honestly terrified. I honestly don't know if I would want to throw another show again just because of how stressful that shit was. But
of course,
the moment it all happened and being able to showcase 75% of my own music during that set and what I was doing moving forward, I think DC will always like have that place in my heart. And I think that was like probably the best show that I've done. And
DC's a hard crowd too, but the thing about shows is you do them, then they're done.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, it was all that worry, all that stress.
10 weeks of planning to be done in 4 hours.
Yeah.
It was like, and it flew by.
Yeah.
So
it always
fast.
does. It goes by so fast.
Yeah.
I liked how you explained a lot of like the thoughts and feelings of like the people in the crowd or like how their reactions affected you. That's like one of the reasons why I love being in the music industry is because I love to be a little part of that like unbridled happiness that I see on someone's face when they're like dancing to music or just having a good time and just like not worrying about anything. Like literally some days I'm like, man, this is fucking hard. Like I might not want to do this anymore. And then like I'll go, I was at Soundhaven last week and I was telling my friend, like, bro, I feel inspired again. Because there were so many people just like going crazy and not worrying about even the people they came with. They were so in a trance with this music and the visuals of everything. And it's like, that's
it truly is something special for real.
It's
like,
so special. Like,
I bet, man.
I have been noticing more BIPOC people showing up to electronic music events in not only DC, but just I travel a lot. And you know, I've been going to, let's call them raves, for over 10 years. When I first went, me and my friends were the only people of color. Like there's maybe like me and 2 other people, and then everyone else was like white. You know, and now it's like you're seeing a move towards a little bit of diversity in my book. But what do you think is? I'm not gonna have you answer that for like everywhere you've been, but what do you think about the DMV scene? Because like we're deep in this shit. I know you are. Like I see you almost every show I go to. Like
it's funny because to even top off there, it's like we run into the same shows, but I don't go out as much as I used to. Like I rarely go out, and if I'm going out, it's generally like I'm going to a show that either I really fuck with the music or like my friend is in town and I just do that.
I mean, same. That's
really
probably why we end up.
Like, and so with that being said, like I guess I don't know. They've always been like a relatively large like crowd, especially like POC. I don't know, man. Like a lot of shows I've always kind of been like a little bit more, I've paid attention to detail, but I can understand why there's like that understanding where you feel like there's more white people than there are like other like people of color. I think it's just, I mean, to be honest, you just kind of pointed out like it's pretty easy to like spot them, to just spot it. A white person, and then the moment you find someone like that's like you really find like that connection. And to me, it's finding artists that are also Peruvian. I haven't. It's very rare. Like when I try to meet people, like even just outside of dance music, it's really hard to meet someone that is Peruvian because I always kind of get the like I was like, oh, are you Peruvian? No, I'm actually from here, or like I'm Bolivian, and Bolivians and Peruvians always do look very much alike. But the moment I do spot one, I get very excited because it's just like, holy shit, like there's more of us. And just, I think this week or last week, I found a lot more artists who are in dance music that are also Peruvian.
Wow.
Which is insane.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I ended up finding out like this vocalist that I really want to work with. She was like a former gymnast for like the Olympics for Peru.
Whoa.
And then there was another dude that like, I really liked his music. I can't remember his name. It's not Viper Active. It's like some other guy. Something Viper. I don't know. I'm sorry, but he's from Canada, but he's also fully Peruvian. There was like a list full of people.
Did this just happen like randomly? You're like, hey, I fuck with this artist, and you like look at a picture and you're like, hey, you kind of look like me. Or was it like
look a little cousin?
No, just like, yeah.
All right.
No, I was looking through like vocalists to work with, and then they had the Peruvian flag in their bio.
Oh, nice.
And so
Power of
then
social media.
Yeah. And then after I noticed that, I made that post and I go like, it's really great seeing like Peruvian artists in dance music. Then a lot of them kind of just started reaching out and was like, hey, I'm also from here. And I kind of just like said like, hey, you know, maybe just maybe, like maybe we should all start putting on like where we're from, you know, like, you know, I was fortunate to be born here. Both my parents came from Peru. So, you know, I really wanted to just like, it took me such a long time to like fully accept the person that I was or the person that I am. And now I'm proud, very proud to like state that I'm Peruvian, like Peruvian American and all of that stuff. And I feel like I've like derailed the conversation, like, sorry. So I do apologize. But
derail, bro.
Yeah.
I think growing up has always been super difficult because I was fortunate enough because my parents, like my mom was, you know, able to put me in a better education system. And then I was just one of the very few people of color. So then you always wonder like, damn, things are a little bit like, I wish I was just kind of like them to kind of fit in.
Yeah, I heard
and
that.
then as I got older, I was like, damn, fuck. Like, nah, dude, there's so like many things to be proud of. But to go back, I've noticed that I've become way more observant and I find more people of color in shows than I have before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go to a lot of the shows at Flash. So you see me with like New Androids or Gradient Perspective and Para. there's actually a lot more like people of color than you might find.
No, definitely. And they have been doing the work to be equitable and not get into the quality like we're just going to throw it all by a POC show, you know, like Para, you know, has DJ Kid Marvel on top of everything, and he's bringing like the tastemakers in DC into those like rooftop shows in a way that's like super inclusive, and like they're doing it right, and I really appreciate just the effort, because like they don't have like, bro, the people are still gonna come through a show. It don't matter, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're. So I appreciate their effort there. And at the end of the day, I think to sum up what you're kind of getting to is like the best way to get more people of color in the electronic music space is to show them that people of color are in the electronic music space. Like at least from my perspective, it's like when I see somebody of color doing something different that I never seen someone do, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like
Alex, where were you born?
When was I born?
Where were you born?
Alexandria.
Okay, so we got 3 Alexandria-born boys on the pod right now.
Hell yeah!
You were born in
I was born in Alexandria, yes sir. And,
what?
That's right, Fairfax County Hospital, baby.
What?
That's right, baby. That's right.
Well, you're capping right
I'm not
now.
capping, baby. I'm not capping. My granddaddy, when I came to Howard, my grandfather had lived in Annandale for like 30-something years. So like that was like my summer.
Bro, you're
spot.
secretly from the
I'm deadass.
DMV?
Huh?
You're secretly from the DMV?
But okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, right? So, one of the first questions we asked on here, we asked where my man was from in the DMV. Yeah. And throughout this interview, I've been thinking, I think I've had an assumption in my head that I think I want to clear up. Are there cultural exports from Northern Virginia that are recognized by DMV culture? And I want to bring that up to you, Eyezic, because when you go to Chicago, what part of the DMV are you taking with you? I know what the Maryland dudes is doing. I know what the DC dudes is doing.
That's a hard one.
Is it just $1 Million Baby? That's it?
Yeah.
You said, yeah, that's crazy.
No. I'm kind of agreeing with like the funny aspect.
So what is the? If we are a culture, right? Then what do we bring in?
Northern Virginia is a really difficult place for that, because like the cultural aspect has been so tarnished, because like that's actually where they like brought in the slaves. Like that's kind of like like that's like the main hub of where that was happening. So like everything was just so tarnished with you know, that terrible history for so long, and then you know, when you kind of dial it up a little bit, super historic place, like everything's just layered with all the historic, you know, facts and fiction everywhere.
Cobblestone,
you know what I'm saying? And then like the cop presence is like super heavy. So I really feel like with the rest of the DMV, the cool art that comes out of it comes from a lot of oppression. Like people.
Oh, so you're saying Virginia brings the oppression so that we can have the rest of the DMV?
Essentially, yes.
That's crazy. You agree with this, Eyezic? You agree with this, man?
I'm like just taking it all in, because you're because you're asking me like, what part of the DMV? I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just a big foodie guy. Like I feel like Northern Virginia has the best, like some of the best food. I would say DMV.
Actually, I got it. So we are very, very diverse in Northern Virginia, because a lot of times when somebody migrates to the United States, they actually end up in like
in Nova.
In Nova. So like we have
Burke.
Yeah, we have really rich Asian culture in a lot of like the cities in Northern Virginia, Annandale especially.
The Asian food in Annandale. Oh my God!
Yeah. Growing up, I was in Spanish immersion at Bailey's Crossroads. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I know. My dad lived in Colmore. So
so like the Latinx population is really, really big in Northern Virginia. I know people who didn't grow up with any Spanish, but I grew up with, like that's how I know Spanish. Like my parents put me in a public school, in elementary school, that had Spanish immersion, and it was a magnet school, Bailey's Elementary, and that changed my whole life. Because like we grew up, bro, with like seeing all of the like stupid stereotypical shit that you see on like a comedy now. Like I seen that in real life when I was little and didn't understand it. And then like, you know, I still have a lot of really good friends from especially the Latino community who are like my brothers and sisters. So that, like I'm really appreciative for that. It's a melting pot. There's a good Middle Eastern population as well. So I think it's more diverse in that sense. It's not as like chocolate city.
No, it's not chocolate
more
city.
Like everyone.
It's true.
People like to make it seem like it's super whitewashed, but that's just a perspective of it all. It depends on
because you could say the same thing about if you look at a particular block in DC, like, oh, it's super white here.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Right. No, it's not. But give
Great
me
question.
like, what are the things that you're bringing? You got the food. Okay, we'll get to the food in a second. But like, are there any like sonic cues? Anything that you're picking up specifically from Maryland when you're like, I wonder how this could fit into my bag?
I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I mean, like I kind of nailed it just with like the food I've tried, and like I always, and maybe this is just dumb for me, but any city I like to go to, I always like to try Peruvian food if I can. And
do it.
And for some reason, it just never hits the way that it does in the DMV. So, so I would love to take that. I also would love to just take like, I don't know, if I could take like toughness, if like toughness was like a physical thing to put into a bag and take it with me, I'd love to take, that's what I would take from the DMV, because I feel like DC, the DMV is just like such a hardworking area. You find not only in just like music, because there are a lot of very talented musicians that have come out of DC who now live in LA, but it's fine. But, and some have stayed, but you also find like, I don't know, just the working class and just everyone, like you take a look at everybody and you realize that everyone there is just hustling and trying to, you know, get by. And I feel like that's something that you don't really see all the time. Yeah. And I feel like it's such a beautiful thing when you see it in like the DMV. It just has like its own little, like it's got a nice touch.
It does. I see that the DC in you or the DMV in you is the thing that got you to 120 channels. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
it's like,
people at Nova are really good at spotting cops. I'm a pro.
In Virginia?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know what every cop car looks like on the road. I'm ranked on Waze.
You're ranked on Waze, bro?
I'm ranked.
Funny.
So that's you?
That's me. Nah, I mean, I'm helping. I know it.
Well, Alex, you know I got one more question for my man.
Of course.
So we were talking about, at the beginning of our conversation, I feel like we're going back to the beginning because I have questions for you.
Good.
No, yeah, go for it.
At the beginning, we were talking about the debate that we have against originality and innovation. And so there's a question I asked all of our guests, because one of our first guests, I think it was our first guest, he said to us, yo, why would I try to make melodies when all the greatest melodies already exist?
That was like our third.
That was our third episode? Yeah. You know I do drugs. I understand what's going on. So I have to ask you, Eyezic, what is your relationship with Luther Vandross?
I mean, you have so many, it's just like one of those things, like if I were to go back, like if I was doing this stuff in like 2016 and trying to do it all, not a lot of those resources were available. And now I have like endless like ideas and like endless possibilities of resources. Like why not take advantage of that?
Like give me one. What you mean?
So like, for example, like I use Splice. So Splice is there to help you be creative with whatever you have. And so why not use it? Like why, like True. I kind of agree with the guy, you know, it's like, why make the melody when I have hundreds of melodies to choose from, or you have the roadmap from there or the blueprint and you can grab that melody and then just recreate it and change a few notes and it's yours. So.
Fair.
Okay. So then I was not expecting that answer. Okay. So if that's the case, do you think that you could be greater than Luther Vandross using his own voice?
No.
Okay.
I feel like
I was waiting for the spice.
It's always the thing of like, you know how like gatekeeping is one of those things. A lot of people don't tend to share some of their creative secrets. I try to do my best to share as much as I can, like racks or like any other resources or any templates that I have.
Yeah.
Because it's just easy. But then it's like, I can give you this, but I can promise you probably won't be able to do it the way I can.
Of course not. Yeah.
But you could probably do something way better. You know, you still have the same tools. You just probably won't do it the same way that I will.
Right.
Or the same way you will, and vice versa. So,
Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, I think we'll get. Do you have any?
No, that was my last one.
Okay, yeah. Last question, which kind of ties everything in. Tell me more about this ethereal dance music. Like,
yeah.
What does it mean? What does it sound like to somebody who has never heard it before?
It's not as cliche as it sounds. It's like I write music to, you know, like most people, is you just feel something. And a lot of the times I've always just said, like, you were like crying on the dance floor, like falling in love on the dance floor is like before that got popularized or anything like that, is like, that's how I've always wanted to feel. And I've always,
You don't even
like,
know.
I've always wanted to, growing up, it was always just like feeling that sense of feeling loved, or like being in love and not knowing what it felt like. And that's how I just like portrayed and expressed how I felt about people or things. And that's how I just write it. And so that's where like that ethereal, like nostalgia, like writing stuff about things that may resonate with one person or may bring them back to like a certain memory. And that's kind of how I've always moved with it. That's why like a lot of the songs that I've written have always been about, you know, it's always been about a certain person or something. The basier stuff is just like, you know, I just wanted to challenge myself.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, but that's always just, like that's how it is. And that's where I want, like, this next project that I'm working on for next year is actually showcasing the whole In Motion project, which is why I did that in DC. And it's showcasing that feeling of just like, that's like where ethereal dance music, I'm like trying to push that moving forward. And yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if that answered that.
No,
but
it's
yeah.
great.
Love on the dance floor. How many times you fell in love on the dance floor, Alex?
You know, I try to fall in love on the dance
You
floor
can't dance,
every.
can you?
Oh, I
Can Alex dance? Mina, have you seen Alex dance?
fucking dance. I can fucking dance.
You making a face like,
It depends. It depends.
not jiggy. Oh.
No, it really depends on how drunk or what other things I've done, or not really. Because I'm like, it's either I will go to a show dead fucking sober, like, and
Of course.
enjoy it.
Have you fallen in love on the dance
Have I
floor?
fallen
though?
in love on the dance floor?
You thought about it too long. Twice, my man. I've
Yes.
Twice on the dance floor.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
How'd
Definitely.
it work out for you?
I did this girl for 5 years. Actually, I met her on the dance floor. That's why I was like, I was thinking like,
But the
Well,
club's
You
got
had
to
to
be
erase
like,
some trauma first.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
It's gotta
that
be
came back in
emotional.
my mind.
I feel like, yeah. I was just talking with a buddy. They were at like Ocean City, and I was like,
Oh,
they
shit,
were like
don't
talking
go to
about
Ocean
secrets. And I was like, I don't know if you can fall in love with secrets, man. I don't know if you should.
Shouldn't say
I don't know if
Yeah.
you should. Is probably a good point.
Like
That's
fall in
great.
love with the dance floor at secrets. I don't know, but I haven't been. So I've never been to secrets. But I also have a lady at home, so I don't need to be falling in love.
Yeah, I'm more of a Virginia Beach kind of guy. Have you fallen in love on the dance floor?
I would say, I think once, and then at that point, things were good, you know. And then we parted ways, and you know, I still have a lot of love for that person. I speak highly of them, but you know, I just wish them all the best. That's all it is.
What about you, B-Mo?
Yeah, I fell in love twice on the dance floor.
Yeah.
One of them I was dating at the time. Another one I never knew her name.
Oh yeah,
Still don't know her name.
It's crazy. That's
What a time.
yeah, damn.
I was before the lady of the house. Just wanted to put on wax though. I was before the lady of the house. You got any questions for us?
Yeah,
we didn't do that the
questions
last
for
time.
us.
You got any questions for us?
I tried.
With,
I tried with Sir You.
did he ask me any questions?
He did not.
That's fine. That was a funny ass episode.
Yeah.
The funny ass episode. You got any questions for us, Isaac?
I guess like, yeah, like how did this, when did this all start, and what made you want to go into the direction of working with, are you guys specifically working with people in electronic? Or are you just looking for, or if you guys are actively just interviewing people of music of all like types and all vibes, I guess?
Whoever bangs my line, whoever answers those emails.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think the electronic music thing comes from what I work with it and who I'm around a lot. And then the fun thing about it is like BMO is a music lover, but it's like a very unbiased like opinion. So I think that makes it a little more digestible for like everyone. And then it helps it be one of those things where like, oh, hey, what is electronic music? Like you got this stick in the mud Alex who's like, this is dope. And then you've got BMO over here. But yeah, how it came together was like, literally within about a month, I decided, yes, going to do this podcast. I'm not somebody who listens or watches a lot of podcasts. Mm-hmm. So again, that comes like super unbiased. Like I'm not copying anyone really. Like I honestly saw No Jumper and I'm like, bro, I was fucking doing that in 2012.
Yeah. You were.
Like,
yeah, so. I saw you. Did you interviewed Mac Miller? I saw that.
He does his research.
I was like, holy shit.
I was a youngin'. I interviewed him twice actually.
Yeah.
And then the third time I was going to interview him, he died before that, unfortunately. Wow. But yeah, it's just to create space for the DMV and anybody who's visiting the DMV, make them feel welcome. They can have a place to tell their organic stories. And I think it also opens up space for like them to be vulnerable sometimes or be really nitpicky or articulate or just laugh with us. You know, it's like this is a music podcast where we can take a lot of different forms and have a lot of different opinions and values. So
1000%
space.
Yeah. We come from the Alex. This is Alex's podcast. He won't say that, or he'll try to deny it as much as he can. But like, this is Alex's podcast, and so when he hit me up to be a part of it, I think my main ideology was to support DMV musicians. And I know we had some people outside of the traditional DMV space, but what I love the most is after being a producer here for like damn near 8 years now, seeing people come in here and like engage with us in a different way, in a very journalistic, but also like passionate way. Cause a lot of people don't get to tell their stories. And actually, while we were doing this podcast, I just thought about like, you know, people have asked me to start a podcast with them, at least like a dozen, but like no one has been like consistent like Alex. So this is why we're here. This is why we're here.
Thanks for listening, y'all. If you get a chance to subscribe, like, download, and follow, we really appreciate it. You can find us on Instagram at TheReUp, ODCAST. You can also find us on Patreon for exclusive content. New episodes every other Thursday. Thanks for your trust. Appreciate y'all.